Hello and welcome to the Johnny Cleveland podcast. It is a Saturday afternoon edition of the show. We are glad to have you here. Also, we have special guests in the house today. We have none other than Steve Gill, who is the blog author of his dogpoundsouth.net and also a writer for clevesportstalk.net. Welcome, Steve. Great to have you here. Steve is just a expert when it comes to all things Cleveland Browns and all things Cleveland sports. And I just love his writings, his articles, his background, his knowledge of what's going on, especially this off season with free agency. We're going to talk about J.J. Watt and lots of other things today. So welcome, Steve. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, John. Expert. A lot of pressure. Lot of pressure.
No pressure. But I've put out a few videos this last week. I did some traveling and was out actually in Houston when the whole J.J. Watt story broke and how potentially he might be thinking about Cleveland a little bit more, and had a lot of fun with those little videos. But I've read some of your thoughts and kind of wanted your take on where you think we are today with J.J. Watt. I noticed today on Twitter he was posting photos of his two dogs, saying that his dogs enjoyed the new city. I don't know if he's trying to kind of make us a little tempted as Browns fans, but we'll buy into anything. So.
Oh yeah, that photograph has already been deciphered, decoded in so many ways. I mean, you got the TV with either a pregame or postgame Premier Soccer. You got the love picture. You got the two dogs, which everybody's paying a lot of attention to. I went on there and I kind of went, well, he's a soccer fan. The Columbus Crew won the MLS. The Crew is owned by the Haslams.
There you go. It makes sense. Perfect sense. So this is our Johnny Cleveland podcast. You can reach us on Facebook and on Twitter at the J Cleveland Pod, and you can email the show at jclevelandpod@gmail.com. And again, we have our special guest Stephen Gill, author of the blog dogpoundsouth.net. I would really encourage everybody out there who follows Steve. His tag name too is you want to share what your tag name is on Twitter?
C-Town Thug.
C-Town Thug. So check it out. All right. So J.J. Watt, he's putting these things out on Twitter. There are other teams in the mix. Obviously, I've heard various teams from his brother's team in Pittsburgh. You've talked a little bit about some other teams like the Green Bay Packers, possibly the Tennessee Titans. You're there in Tennessee, I believe, correct?
Correct. Nashville.
Okay.
Green Bay, the team he grew up rooting for, kind of like Bernie with Cleveland.
Yes.
Pittsburgh, he's got his brothers there, but they are in a total cap hell. They've got a 39-year-old quarterback that's holding them hostage right now. And I listened to their GM this week, and he didn't really sound like he wanted Ben back. So Green Bay is also in a little bit of cap problem. I know they cleared $10 million yesterday, but they still have to clear more just to sign Watt and their own free agents. Plus, you got to hold money back for your draft allocation after the draft is over, and plus you got to kind of keep a little extra money during the year in case of an emergency. Somebody gets hurt, you got to sign somebody. Like Andrew Berry did most of this year. So. Tennessee, it's the Vrabel connection.
Yes.
Mike Vrabel was his coach down in Houston, and they have a really good relationship. But right now, the Titans are really, really up close to the cap. If they're not slightly under it, they're slightly above it. They have no tight end signed.
Yeah.
They have 4 tight ends, and all 4 of them are free agents.
Okay.
They've got their number 2 wide receiver they have to deal with. They've got a lot of money sunk into like 6 players.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they just redid Tannehill, and they just re-signed King Henry, and Taylor Lewan's getting a ton of money. Their secondary is getting a ton of money. They're going to have to restructure like crazy to get J.J. Watt. So the only logical team in Buffalo, I've heard Buffalo.
Yeah, Buffalo. I was going to ask you about Buffalo.
But
and what about like the Chiefs? What about Kansas City?
They're over the cap.
Okay.
And I haven't seen any interest in them. Buffalo, they're around the cap, but they would have to also cut players, restructure. It just came out this morning that their stud linebacker, Matt Milano, is going to test free agency.
Mm-hmm.
So if they want him back, they're going to have to throw a ton of cash at him. Cleveland is really the only team that's got good cap shape. They're like, if you go to different websites, you see anywhere between 20 and 24 million in cap space. Unfortunately, all of that cap space is the result of them rolling over money that they didn't use last year. So they created their cap space.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to have to restructure contracts anyway.
Yeah.
For the future. So if they can get a restructure done on OBJ and Jarvis Landry and Sheldon Richardson and maybe even J.C. Treader, Batano, Case Keenum's going to get a lot of money this year. If they can rework some deals and like tell the players, hey, we're doing this so we can bring in more talent on the defense, protect the next step.
Yeah.
The only one I worry about, and plus they've got to extend Chubb. They have to extend Teller. They're going to pick up the 5th-year option on Mayfield and Ward, but those don't come into effect till 2022.
Yeah.
That's their 5th year. So, and then they got to think about extending Mayfield and Ward. So they've got to clean up their cap space for the future.
So do you think, where do you sit today with a percentage if you had to put it like the chances today that obviously they have every reason why JJ should come to Cleveland. I think you've kind of shared that. Where do you think how do you think he's thinking? And where do you see our chances today? 50-50?
Well, if you go by what Ed Warder said, he wants to win a ring. He wants the money, and he wants a stable quarterback situation. Mm-hmm. Well, that's Cleveland.
Yeah, unless you're Mary Kay Cabot, who
I don't want to talk about Mary Kay Cabot.
Well, we can get into that later.
Yeah, well, I know there's about 15% of Browns fans out there who want to trade for anybody to get rid of Baker. I don't know why.
Me neither.
He proved this year. He got better as the year went.
Absolutely.
He lost OBJ. They kind of tweaked the offense. And
most consistent starter that we've had in decades. So,
how many games has he started now? When's the last time we had a guy start for 2.5 years?
Yeah, no, you have to go way, way back. You're talking all the way back to Bernie. That's So I think I've shared that out on a couple things I've written on. That consistency is there, and that's helped the Browns get to where they got this season.
Personally, I think with J.J. Watt, he wants to go to Green Bay.
Okay.
That makes perfect sense. But does Green Bay want to tear it down, a little bit to bring in J.J. Watt? They've already got 2 edge rushers that are great. And Watt could come to Cleveland. He could play inside and outside. Yeah,
you mentioned that with the Browns D, how they have a 4-3.
He is really a 4-3 defensive tackle. He has a better pressure rate as a defensive tackle than he does as an edge.
Yes.
So if you can rework Sheldon Richardson's contract, you can slide him over onto the edge, or you can bring him in and he can play in there, and whoever you draft or use for your other edge with Miles on the others. And that's the other thing. Yeah. All these other teams, he would be the guy.
Yes.
Like he was in Houston. Here in Cleveland, he wouldn't be the guy.
No.
You got a potential defensive player of the year sitting over there who's also going to be rushing the quarterback. And Watt absorbed the most double teams of anybody in the NFL.
Wasn't Garrett like second or third on that list?
Third.
Yeah.
So it just makes more sense. And Joe Woods, you saw what Tampa did to Kansas City.
Yes.
They pressured with 4. They blitzed maybe 10% of the time.
Absolutely.
But Joe Woods wants to pressure with 4, drop 7.
Mm-hmm.
And you can pressure with 4 with J.J. Watt. If I had to put I think it's 50-50. It's down to these two teams. I mean, it's down to Green Bay and Cleveland.
Okay. Well, I know it's Saturday, and I know people were starting to get antsy as of Thursday. Like, why hasn't he made a decision?
Yeah. Well, we got to find out where that hotel room is.
That's right. I think for us Cleveland fans, I was thinking about this earlier today. It's a completely different sport, and I know Cleveland fans have always been used to being let down. And I think what personified, even made it worse for Cleveland fans in general, was years ago when LeBron, and I know this is a different sport, but when LeBron left that first time to go down to Miami and he had the decision, I feel like it's a gut punch to Cleveland fans. And so it's aggravated when we get to these situations where it's out there. J.J. Watt is thinking about coming to Cleveland. We're getting excited, but are they the same old Browns? Are these the same old situations? Not exactly. We're in a much better spot. And you've talked about a little bit about, you want to go in a little bit about the front office, your take on, Barry and how you like. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. Let's move on. Let me come back to that, and then we'll talk more about him with the draft. Are there other players? I mean, if we don't get J.J. Watt, you've had a couple other names that you've shared on your blog. Players like Leonard Williams from the New York Giants or Sheldon Rankins from New Orleans. Are these players? I mean, the Browns are. You did some write-up on those guys. Why would they work in Cleveland, you think?
Well, the only reason I included those interior defensive linemen is if Sheldon Richardson says, no, I'm not taking a pay cut.
Yeah.
And they have to cut him, they'll save about $11-12 million if they do. Yeah. I mean, he's going to be making $13.7 million. Yeah. I can't imagine him wanting to move on right now because he's 30 years old. He's on his 4th team.
Yeah.
You move some of that salary to upfront cash. He potentially gets to play in a Super Bowl. But I included interior defensive linemen only because the Giants are kind of on the cap. They've got 2 free agents, Williams and another guy named Tomlinson, who are both defensive tackles. Yeah. Are they going to be able to sign both? Probably not. Rankin, I include every New Orleans player because they are like $60 million over the cap.
Are they really? Wow.
They are in cap, you know what. And that's why people are talking about the edge rusher, Trey Hendrickson, who went from like 4.5 sacks to 14 sacks in 1 year. And he's coming off his rookie contract. You talk about people are suggesting maybe they might trade Lattimore.
Yeah.
He has no dead money. He's in the last year of his rookie contract. So that would be about $10 million that New Orleans could help. $10 million when you're $60 million over is like throwing a deck chair off the Titanic, but every little bit helps, right? So I'm always going to look at New Orleans players. They have a safety, Marcus Williams, who I really like, and he could probably be had for about $8 or $9 million. But these are market values based on normal NFL seasons. This season is going to be weird because you're going to have all these big contracts that everybody signed last year. They were pre-pandemic.
Yes.
Before everybody knew what was totally going on.
Yeah.
So if you didn't backload these contracts right, it's going to be a bloodletting here as soon as they set the salary cap. I know they raised it from the floor from 175 to 180.
180, right? Yesterday,
but that's the floor. They can't go any lower. I've heard rumors that it might go up to 185, and that's it.
Okay.
So you're going to see a ton of players hit the market.
What about like players like Joey Bosa, like you out there in San Francisco? I saw you said something about that. Are they talking about letting?
I just retweeted something that some guy said. Some writer out in San Francisco suggested they cut Bosa, and I just kind of went, okay,
right.
If you insist, do it.
That's good.
But they're not going to do that.
No.
They're not going to do that.
So let's move on to talk a little bit about the Browns and the draft coming up here. Obviously, the draft is going to be held here up in Cleveland. Very exciting. Yeah, hopefully. That's right. So the Browns have 9 picks, and I like some of your mock drafts. Obviously, you've taken different players each of those mock drafts. This latest draft, you put down Gregory Rousseau. It was an edge
out of Miami. Yeah,
out of Miami.
He opted out this year.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah. Oh, he's a stud. He's a stud.
Now, does he play? His teammate was Jalen Phillips, who you did the first time around when we were looking at the 26th pick. But he played. Phillips played, and Rousseau didn't. Is that what happened? Okay.
Yeah.
And then you had the kid out of Notre Dame. You had a linebacker.
Oh, I love that kid.
And
I love that kid.
Is it Corimo?
Yeah, he can play. He can play both safety and linebacker. He's the second best coverage linebacker last year in the NCAA. Number 1 was this linebacker out of LSU. Go figure.
Yeah.
Named what was his name? Jabril Cox. So
okay. Yes.
I don't really feel like the Browns are going to go linebacker with their first pick.
No, I don't either.
If they get Watt or get somebody else like Carl Lawson from Cincinnati or any of the other edge rushers that are out there, there's a really nice kid in Detroit, Romeo Akura.
Yes,
I believe his name is. He is. He's coming off a really good season. He kind of clicked with him in week 12.
Mm-hmm.
So if they pick up an edge rusher, then they could go safety first.
Yeah. Now you're going to get now the Browns are going to get Grant Delpit back, hopefully.
Correct. And they have Ronnie Harrison.
Right. Now, like linebackers, I've been impressed with the Zach Collins kid out of Tulsa. The kid's 6'5", 6'6",
260.
Yeah.
He's huge.
He looks like he could be great. I mean, right now.
Oh yeah, he's got 4 interceptions. I mean, for Tulsa, if he's there at 26, Andrew Berry's going to have a big decision to make. Does he go linebacker or does he trade down a little bit?
I mean, if Zach Collins is there for me as a fan, I want him taking him.
Me too.
If he's there,
but the Browns don't value the linebacker position.
They have the 9 picks, but you think Andrew Berry will probably manipulate that a little bit because he didn't use them all last year, like we were talking off air.
Yeah,
about that.
He likes to move around if he can pick up picks for the future.
Mm-hmm.
Or like he had 2/3 last year, and I think he did really well with getting Jacob Phillips and Elliot Jordan.
I like Jacob Phillips and the Jordan kid. Oh, out of Missouri.
Yeah, he's going to be an absolute steal.
Yes,
he is. You know, he's going to be a steal on the defensive line.
What do you think of Mac Wilson out of Alabama? The kid he's played now. What do you think of his game?
You know, coming out of Alabama in that draft, he was supposed to be the best coverage linebacker.
Yeah,
and I just haven't seen it. He got a little better as the year went on, but then again with the injuries.
Yeah. Well, then he had that play at the end of the season when they were playing the Chiefs in the playoff game, and he took down Patrick Mahomes, and Patrick Mahomes' mom got all worried and called out the player saying that it was dirty or something, which is just ridiculous. Yeah. But
then Dirty Dan Sorensen helmet to helmet Higgins later, and that's perfectly fine.
I think I did a podcast on that, and we talked a little bit about the that play. We won't go into the detail on that, but there's some.
I don't want to either.
So okay, so today, just go for JJ Watt. You think 50-50 right now? It's a possibility, or Green Bay?
Yeah, Yeah, I don't know if he wants to go to Buffalo. His wife plays women professional soccer in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
She just signed with him. She used to play in Houston. Now she's signed up with that team.
Did JJ Watt go to the Chicago Bears?
She wants him to go to the Bears, but I don't know if the Bears want him. I have not heard of any interest from the Bears. Usually when you're on Twitter and you see, well, this team is interested in this team, that's the player's agent trying to drum up business.
Yeah, I saw you
to get a better deal.
Yeah.
Knowing Andrew Berry for the limited amount, I'm sure he made JJ Watt a great offer.
See, now
but he's not going to overpay for it.
Right.
Because this team is not JJ Watt away from going to the Super Bowl.
See, I was hoping Joe Thomas would have some influence on this decision.
I believe he has contacted him.
Okay, because they're both Wisconsin guys, and well, good.
And
let me just
Scott Fujita, who used to play for the Browns.
Yes,
he is also contacted him.
Okay, that's an now. Didn't Scott Fujita play for the New Orleans Saints way back when?
Yep.
Yeah. Was Fujita part of those teams was he on the playoff team, the Browns? No, he came in between the last time the Browns.
I think in between.
Yeah.
But he's always loved the city, and I don't know what his connection is to Watt, but
okay.
I read someplace where he was contemplating contacting him. But we will not know the JJ Watt saga until JJ Watt tells his agent. If he knows now, if he knows which way he's leaning now, he hadn't told his agent yet.
Nobody.
As soon as he tells his agent,
he's putting out these mysterious pictures of his dogs and his house, and it's driving everybody nuts.
This is his first time at free agency.
That's why
players love the attention.
Well, with the decision with LeBron years ago, I think the players throughout all sports kind of learned, hey, LeBron can have this whole great experience and get all this attention. So they're playing it for all it's worth. But
all the teams came to Cleveland and laid down their gifts in front of the king's throne.
That's right. That summer was crazy. I mean, we were telling me. I'd be traveling. We'd be in the car. I'd be listening to sports radio. Everyone was like every day. You're waiting for, and then it was mid July. I think is when. Didn't he make his decision to go to Miami? It was in July, right? And then when he decided to come back, it was like in the middle of July, right? He wrote an article or somebody wrote.
Sports Illustrated article.
Yeah. Do you think he comes back? Do you think LeBron comes back one last time? No.
Why should he?
Right.
I mean, he's got his production company out in LA, and
what about him waiting for his younger son to come up into the NBA?
That's a tough question.
Yeah. I just throw it out there, boy. But
maybe
LeBron, what is he? 37 now? 36?
I think so.
It's amazing to watch him play at his age. But
I know. I'm about to be 63, and I hobble to get out of bed in the morning. So,
do you think the Browns with OBJ? Some folks want to get rid of him. Say, that Baker was much better when he was out. That Baker did all these things after OBJ went out, which I think is just foolish. But
it is foolish.
Yeah. Do you don't see the Browns? I mean, maybe they're listening to people communicating.
If somebody called them today and offered a great package, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he carries no dead money. All the dead money that's on his contract, the Giants are carrying because they signed him to a contract extension in the summer before they traded it.
Yeah.
So it's just his salary completely comes off the cap.
I mean, I think back to the game. Was it week 4 against the Cowboys?
Oh,
what he did during
that's the game I point to.
What now?
That's the game I point to. Anybody says, well, you got to get rid of him.
Yeah.
Go rewatch the Dallas game.
Oh, it was phenomenal. That performance was one of the best he will ever have in his career. It was great. That run at the end of the game that kind of sealed the deal.
Oh yeah. The thing with OBJ, everybody thinks because of when he first heard the trade, he was a little despondent about leaving New York.
Yeah.
because of the big city lights and everything. So that's going to be carried over with him for the rest of his career. Well, no matter where he goes, he's not going to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where this locker room cancer thing started. You know, you talk to people who cover the team and talk to the players, and they're all like, no, he's great. Right. He's great in the locker room.
Yeah.
And he's coming off major knee surgery. He's probably not going to be ready till training camp. I don't know a GM in their right mind who's going to trade for him now anyway.
Yeah.
I don't believe the Baker got better. I think Stefanski tweaked the offense because now the defense isn't going to have to pay a lot of attention to one wide receiver. Because if you got OBJ out there, he's going to draw double coverage because he's OBJ. But now you have just a bunch of receivers like Hodge and Higgins and Landry and even Kareem Hunt sliding down there in motion. And, you know, now the defense doesn't have one guy to pay attention to. And plus you got the tight ends who are, you know, seems like always open when they're in the red zone.
Well, depending on what the Browns do in the offseason, we don't know yet what's going to happen in free agency. We don't know yet with the draft. But offensively, you know, the Browns, when you look at the Browns, they look pretty talented. You know, do you see Stefanski? I know he's been asked this question a couple times about working Hunt and Chubb more into the offense together. Do you think that's a thing that he's going to look at really over the offseason and really try to work that in? Or do you see it still kind of how they're sharing the responsibilities, kind of alternating either possessions or, you know, plays?
Well, I'll give you a Kevin Stefanski answer. We will put them in situations for the team to win.
Yes.
There you go. I did notice one thing. This last season, they had Hunt lined up as the third wide receiver quite a bit.
Yes.
Either they'd send him in motion, or they'd line him up out there, and either he'd get a safety, or when he went in motion, he'd get a linebacker. Which, if you're in the red zone, you might as well go ahead and put 6 on the board because a linebacker's not going to cover Kareem Hunt.
Right.
You're heading towards the end zone. I'm sorry, you're not. So,
well,
I'd like to see him use more, but they have the fullback. So, I mean, you can line all 3 up and send Kareem Hunt off to the third wide receiver slot, and boom.
Well, Coach Stefanski's been very impressive. Just find him to be really what the Browns needed, and I don't see that changing for a long while. The Marty Schottenheimer passed away a couple weeks ago, and there's as a child growing up and watching the Browns and Marty when he was the Browns coach, and kind of comparing those teams to what we're kind of seeing right now, starting up with the Browns' talented offense and hopefully improving defense. The Browns' defense was pretty talented back then when Marty was around too. They had some pretty solid, defenses. So
sure, I mean, they had some studs.
Yes,
they had Clay Matthews, who should be in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, that's disgraceful. I was reading up about Hanford Dixon and Frank Minifield. The tandem that kind of when they started the whole dog pound, and how the name of your part of your blog.
They'd bark at the wide receivers.
Yes, yeah,
and that's how they got they just started calling themselves dogs.
And they put a sign, I think, there in that one end of the end zone, and so that kind of became the dog pound.
Yes, the creative end of the old stadium.
I think
where everybody stood.
How many times have you been able to? Now we were talking off air, but you grew up in Cleveland, but moved when you were a child to where you're at now in Tennessee. Did you have you had a chance to go to the old stadium when you were a kid? Yeah.
Yeah. My wife and I used to be president of the Middle Tennessee Brownsbackers.
Okay.
And we would take trips up there with, we load up a couple cars and head up. So we went up twice for when they were in the old stadium. The last time we went, a friend and I witnessed a wedding. I mean, literally signed our names to the wedding certificate, and they got married at halftime in Dog Pound. There was
wonderful.
lake effect snow, and it was like
Ah,
30 degrees. It was a
classic.
perfect day for a wedding.
Classic.
And yeah, and then my wife and I have been to the new stadium once.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So, oh, I love it.
Yeah, I've got season tickets now. You know, I lived in Kansas for 26 years. So when I moved back, that was one of my first purchases. And I'm very happy we got the season tickets still when the Browns that season before last when they were still pretty lousy. So now you're on a waiting list again. So very happy about that.
Well, I can get tickets anytime. I have a guy who lives down here in Nashville. His dad was part of the groundskeeping crew in the old stadium.
Okay.
So he always has and his parents still live up there. So every year he comes to me before the season starts and goes, "You want to go up for a season opener?" And I'm like, "No, I don't want to go for the season. I'd rather stay here." But I mean, you know,
where do you rate a stadium mustard? You know, the old.
Oh, it's the best.
Right.
I got a bottle of Burtman's in my fridge.
Excellent.
I got about that much left in it, and I'm rationing it. My wife keeps making like Italian sausage or brats, and she says, "Do you want some stadium mustard?" And I'm going, a little bit, just a little bit.
Where do you have your shipped? Do you when you come to Cleveland? How do you keep it on in the fridge without?
What do you mean?
Do you get it as a gift, or do you?
Well, when I was president of the Middle Tennessee Browns backers, we would do free halftime raffles.
Yes.
We do dollar raffles, but halftime we do free raffles. And we give away different stuff like, shot glasses, pens, pencils. But we also always gave away a thing of mustard.
Yes.
So I would buy it by the case before the season started.
Yeah.
And everybody would look forward to raffle time because they'd all want that damn mustard. Matter of fact, there's this, we'd start raffling stuff and people would start yelling, "What about the mustard? What about the mustard?" So 2 years ago, I went to near the end of the season to the Browns backer bar here in Nashville, and I won the mustard. I'm going, "Hey, this is great."
Well, I don't know why I didn't think of that. I was the president of the local club out there in Wichita, and we have a very loyal. I think I wrote a little piece about that for Cleveland Sports Talk a while back. But there's a loyal, 30 or 40 folks that show up every Sunday to the old Quincy Sports Bar off of 235 there near Zoo Boulevard, and they love their mustard too. But we had a 50-50 drawing. So
we did that too.
Yeah, so we would have
a square board.
Yeah, and we'd have the little. I'd shop for the little gifts and the tokens, and had a lot of fun with that. But we should have passed up stadium mustard. I don't know why we didn't think about that.
Case price. I mean, the club here in Nashville is great. We started in 1988.
Yeah.
With about 30 members. It's grown to. Well, let me put it to this way: the season opener against Tennessee 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We had 345 people in the bar.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you had to pack a lunch to go.
If I'm coming through, I will meet you there.
All right, cool. They're a great group of people. I've known some of these people since for 20 years.
We've got several members. I know I have a friend, one of the guys in the club, Wichita, Bob, who's been to Tennessee, to Nashville. I think he's stopped in that sports bar a time or two because he would send photos back to us and such. So yeah,
this year they had to, because of COVID, they had to split it up into two bars. The normal bar is called, and I still don't know how they found this place, Doghouse Saloon.
Oh my gosh.
And the other place is Scoreboard, which we have been in and out of a couple times. Okay. They're normally a Packer bar, but they have an outdoor. Yeah, well, they're nice people. I have no problems with Packer fans. So unless we play them, then I hate them.
So do you have any favorite Browns, either like historically speaking, going way back over the years? Have a great memory?
Oh yeah, my one of my most favorite players is Dick Ambrose.
Oh yes.
Bam. Yeah. I got to meet him in 2002 in New Orleans when the Browns played the Saints.
Oh, cool.
Back then, the Browns backers, I don't know if they did it when you were president, they would organize away trips.
Yes. Yeah.
And they did 2 in New Orleans. 99, I got to see the Hail Mary by Tim Couch.
Oh, there you go.
And 2002, when Dennis Northcutt went crazy. So they had a bunch of players. I got to meet Bernie, Herman Fontenot, Steve Everett, Bam Bam, Reggie Langhorne.
I've heard some interesting stories about Webster Slaughter recently. Old stories from cousins of mine that worked up in Cleveland. He was a very exotic player, had a lot of demands way back when he was popular, when he'd go out, and we'll have to talk about that some other time. So you
wouldn't surprise me. I mean,
Reggie Langhorne, you said, was
as a matter of fact, the night after the game they won, I bought him a drink at the bar, and he fist pumped me, and he had one of his some of his rings on, and they left a dent and a sore. And my wife looked at me and went, "Do you want me to find something to put on that?" And I went, "No, let's let these bruise nicely." So. Yeah, I bought him a crown.
We'll have to have you back, as we get closer to the draft, maybe coming up here at the end of April. I think you shared out. You get a lot. Your information. You get a couple sites you were sharing with me off air. The one was called overthecap.com.
Over the Cap is a pretty good website for people who are interested in the cap. They don't update it as much as they should. But this time of year they'll update it quite a bit. Yeah. It's really simplistic. If you just want to understand what the cap is about and what the teams, right now they have their floor set at 180. Then there's another one I use, which is a little more detail. Spot Track, SPOTRAC. They have their floor set at 185 million. They think it's going to go up to 185.
Okay.
But they get into a little bit more detail of the players, the cash spent, the rollovers, and all that other stuff. Which, by the way, I saw online they put out the rollovers per team from last year.
Yeah.
And everybody was going, "Oh, Cleveland has $30 million to roll over into their $20 million." No. That $30 million's included in that $20 million they're under the cap.
Okay.
That's already accounted for. It's just they announced it. And Spot Track's got that, and they're a great follow on Twitter at Spot Track.
At Spot Track, okay.
I temper my draft stuff until after free agency.
Yes,
I know Andrew Berry likes to go after those mid-20 guys coming off their first contract, catch them in their primes. So that's, I go over to Pro Football Focus, and I'm looking for those 25, 26, 27-year-old guys coming off their first contract. And then I'm looking at the salary cap to see where the team stands, if they can afford them.
Yeah.
And that's how I come up with my free agent list.
Well, I think it's just fantastic. I really enjoy reading your material. I would encourage anybody to check his blog out at dogpoundsouth.net. Also, you write for clevelandsportstalk.com. Have some really great material there. I know I like the fact that you and I both kind of write sometimes about the past.
Apparently that was my niche this year, because I became the site historian.
Yeah, I think you were kind enough to share. I think I wrote an article at the same time you were writing about the same thing with Red Right 88 and the Oakland Raiders history there. When we were looking at that. And so enjoy reading your material. I hope everybody checks your blog out and checks out your reading at clevelandsportstalk.com. I appreciate you coming on our Johnny Cleveland podcast. And we'll have to do this again. I look forward to coming down to Nashville too, to come to the sports.
Yeah, you should come down. I'll drag you, if it's during the football season, I'll drag you over to the Brownsbacker bar, and
that would be fantastic.
Let you experience the Middle Tennessee Brownsbacker in all their full glory.
Well, thanks again, Steve. I really appreciate you on the show. We'll see what happens this week with JJ and all the other.
Come any day now.
It could be. Take care, everybody. Thank you for listening to the Johnny Cleveland podcast. And remember, everybody, to keep smiling. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, Steve.